We'll talk about the effective parenting, and effective parenting is it needs to be explained so that we understand exactly what it entails. And effective parenting is said to be the ability to interact and engage with children in such a way that they learn and grow into remarkable adults. And if there is effective parenting, then it also means there is bad parenting. So what is really a bad parenting? Maybe it's good we define that and then we compare the two as we move along. Bad parenting is a series of actions that can seriously harm the child's demeanor and psychology. Bad parenting might stem from not knowing enough to be a better parent, or from a general lack of apathy to learning the right way. It also means when one is engaging in bad parenting, he or she can have many adverse effects on your child. So when we talk about the parenting, it is a broad term, and there is a lot of information out there what it is. It is hard to know sometimes which way to turn when you have so many definitions. Parenting, of course, is hard. There is no doubt about that. But people have been doing it for thousands of years. Long before maybe university professors stepped in lots of complicated research, there has always been parents. Generally, effective parenting comes down to these 3 steps. The first one is clarity. Step 1, clarity. You wouldn't go on a major road trip without knowing where you are going. Would you? Of course, no. With the parenting, it is even more important to have a plan. But how many of us have the plan? We need a clear vision of who you want your child to be and what is essential to you. Keeping your long-term goal in mind and prioritizing your values allows you to be clear about your day-to-day decisions. Having clear guidelines on your mind gives you a standard to check against. Not only will you feel less stressed when you communicate your expectation with quiet confidence, you make your child feel calmer, more secure and happier. The other step that is also key, it is the connection. Once you are clear on your priorities and values, it is time to form a close, warm connection with your child. Really, this is the silver bullet of parenting. A child who can feel, or a child who feels absolutely secure in your affection for him is ready to do your bidding. Feeling your approval, he gradually engages in the routines of the family. He or she wants to please you. Think you don't have time to build that connection because maybe we are busy. The truth is, you cannot afford not to. It is only with a strong emotional bond that you will get the joyful cooperation you want from your child. The third very important step is consistency. Even as adults, we like to know what is going on and what is expected of us. Knowing the plan makes us feel secure. Well, your child feels the same way. When she is certain about what will make you happy and what will upset you, she comes to trust your reaction. Now she knows how to behave and can choose whether or not she wants to. It is when you react one way to a given situation one day and another the next day that she cannot regulate her mood and control her own emerging will. Your being consistent allows her to be her best self and to get on her day. The other point is home is the first school and the parents are the first teachers of that school. The effectiveness of a teacher in any school determines the future development of a learner. Schools employ trained teachers to ensure learning and growth of children. Does a mother or father receive any training for the child rarely? We learn parenting vicariously. We behave like our parents until life experiences allow or force us to accept other alternatives. And this is where now we are. There are many things that are happening and we are now being forced or allowed maybe to choose some other alternatives that we are not even well informed. And like I had said that earlier, new technological advancement have also created a new challenge to parenting. Because the knowledge that is out there, the person who was supposed to learn it first is the parent. Unfortunately, we are left behind. We can also say that all parents face challenges in parenting. So it's important, therefore, to learn about healthy parenting practices. If it cuts across, then it means we need to learn some practices. We need to go to school and learn about effective parenting because it is not automatic. Healthy parenting also means that parents and children can handle disagreements because they will be there. Having conflict is not the problem. The problem is how to solve them. And the conflict without any abuse. In other words, we are saying if we have healthy parenting, we will handle disagreement and conflict without any abuse, neglect, or violence. If we are doing the wrong parenting, we end up creating about 6 abuses in our families. And this again is just brought by a parent. There are about 6, and these abuses are the parameters that we use to measure whether you are subjecting your children in a good environment or not. And to mention them, we have abuses like physical, verbal, intellectual abuse, we have financial, we have spiritual, and we have emotional. They are about 6 or they are about, even sexual abuse, they are about 6 or 7. Abuses that actually would now indicate that the head of the family or the people who are responsible there, they are not actually effective. When it comes to healthy parenting, it not only benefits families, but it also makes parents and children to have very strong relationships. A child is supposed to be bonded with the parent more than any other. Of course, when it is not, we don't have healthy parenting, then that bond will not be there. Effective parenting depends on a number of factors, and the first one is what we call parenting styles. There are about 4 parenting styles that will determine where you run your family. And we call them 4 boundary parenting styles. And the first two, and they have distinct names and characteristics. And maybe I'll just share so that you can know where you read more. The first one is what we would call permissive or indulgent type of parenting. Permissive, you know. And children of permissive parenting, or let's say children of permissive parents, are usually creative and original, but they tend to feel insecure. Yeah, permissive means you are just, they are there. You, at least you don't limit them, you don't fungia sana, but you are kind of, it is laissez-faire. Yeah, someone comes at, it's a girl comes at 10, you don't even ask them where they are coming from. As much as it's risky, and it is, that girl, at least they are also good in this, is running. So that's what I'm saying. They are creative. They must know how to negotiate, avoid thieves or people who can attack them, for them to have a life in the house. But they are also prone to problems. So internally, they tend to be very, very insecure. This could be explained by saying that many of these adolescents interpret their parents' permissive attitude as a sign of lack of pride and love for them. Although it may seem strange, many adolescents wish that their parents had banned certain things. In fact, most of the adolescents, if you were to allow them, they would want it this way. Yeah, but again, they are supposed to be limited. You give them the guidance, of course, with explaining very clearly the dangers of going beyond those boundaries. Then we have the second type of parenting style, or maybe I can explain further. The children of neglect parents, they do not possess the best emotional inheritance. Among the abuses that I have talked about, this one they will suffer more on the emotional abuse. Actually, the parent is abusing them emotionally. That is to say it very direct. Neglect is a pattern of failing to provide for a child's basic needs. No, I think they might talking about the same one. Yeah, it's still the same. It is an abuse through omission. It's not that they are aware or they want, but it is through omission of not doing something resulting in significant harm or risk of risk of the same significant harm. There are 4 types of neglect: physical neglect, medical neglect, educational neglect, and emotional neglect. When you neglect a child, finally that is what will happen. The education, they are medical, they are sick, you are not even aware, and all that. They are given their freedom too soon, and their parents do not care what they do with this freedom. The result is a lack of ability to establish good interpersonal relationship and the tendency to suffer from poor self-esteem. There are no apparent positive effects of this style. Children of the other type of leadership, parent style, we call it authoritarian types of kind of dictatorship. Yeah, and the majority of parents are that way. It just comes automatically. These children, they do not seem to benefit from parental autocracy. And especially, remember, again, adolescents, they require a degree of autocracy. In fact, most of the studies identify this style as not at all desirable. In the young people from authoritarian families, there are higher rates of delinquency and aggressiveness than in any other form of parenting style. They also tend to suffer from a poor self-concept and develop a negative attitude towards their parents' ideas and beliefs. They can even decide not to be going to worship where you go, just to hit back. The other one is children, the good one, we call it children of democratic parents. There is democracy, authoritative, not authoritarian type of parenting. These children, they experience satisfactory feelings with respect for themselves and a positive attitude towards their parents' values. In general, this style is the most desirable and positive, according to most of the sociological studies which have been carried out on this subject. Now, in the democratic parenting, there is a lot of negotiation. There is a lot of dialogue. Yes, you have set a rule, like the one I said about everybody to be at home by 6. When your child reaches, for instance, adolescence, you are supposed now to call them, sit them down, and maybe say, for all these years, the rule of this family has been that everybody must be at home by 6. What do you have to say about that? Of course, an adolescent will tell you, we can come at midnight, because they always go extreme. So your work is now to guide. And a good parent should be flexible, should be seen to shift from at least 6 to some healthy hours, but not to say you must stand on that. Because if you are talking to an adolescent, maybe they are going to college, kuna matatu, the other things, and they may not necessarily find themselves at home at 6. So a lot of negotiation, understanding, dialogue, which again, most parents don't have. They are still looking at you as somebody who cannot think or somebody who cannot contribute, which again is a problem. Now, for somebody to exercise democratic parenting, this style, you must have been trained. It's not automatic. It is the most difficult. Because in most cases, as a parent, you feel like you are giving some of your possession, to your children. So you want to hold on. I'm the one who provides the food, and I'm the one who scores the shot. But remember, you are dealing with the people whose brain has grown, and they can be able to think outside the box. It is highly recommendable to provide emotional support and to exercise a suitable degree of control over the children. Adolescents need first the deep friendship with the parents, plus their support and availability. Only then can the parents exercise control over the adolescent. There is one thing you must do first. You must cultivate deep friendship. When a young man has been booted by that beautiful girl, the first person they are supposed to share that frustration, it is none other than the father. Because the father has already gone through it. But how many of our young men would confide with their parents? Actually, that is the last, or it might never even happen. That simply shows we are not good parents. Because the first friend should be your parent, as it were. When you start your marriage at 30 years or whichever years, and you have challenges in that family, your parents should have, when you are let's say when you have a child from 24 onward, a parent does not guide. You are not supposed to guide your child. You are a young adult. You are actually supposed to mentor. The skill that you are supposed to use is called mentoring. You can even add there coaching and mentoring, not guidance. Now, mentoring, when we are mentoring, we don't, in most cases, you don't even talk. Somebody is copying what they have seen you do. How have you been managing your marriage, your marital life? They are learning from you. You are mentoring. They are your mentee. But most parents, they disqualified themselves a long time ago from being the mentors. So they are only left with one thing: instruction. Instruction cannot work for this group of people. So have you built this friendship? They will allow you to support them, and they will also be available for you. Another thing that is important for parents, an effective parent must do, they must constantly be seen to be boosting their children's self-esteem. I don't want to labor on that. That is very important. Because more often you'll be finding sometimes they have episodes of frustration. This is a good son of yours who has been performing well, but maybe something has happened and all of a sudden they have dropped. It is not a must that you must harass them, quarrel them. It is failing is part of life. It is how you look at it that is very important. So are you in the business of boosting his self-esteem, or you are just there crushing them completely? A good parent is also supposed to set limits and be consistent with their discipline. There must not be double standard. And the discipline definitely is different from punishment. If you are punishing an adolescent or a young adult, they will hit back. So here we need now to be very, are you disciplining, or you just want to inflict pain to somebody? And the pain can even be emotional, not necessarily physical. The other one is a good parent, an effective parent will make time for their children. Here, there is one thing about parenting. You can delegate anything on this earth, but parenting is never delegated. Actually, you are supposed to have hands-on approach on raising children. But how many of our children have been destroyed because in their formative years, they spent more time with the house girls. They actually identified more with the house girl than with the parent. That is a damage that will never be recovered. In fact, psychologists indicate that the most important years of anybody's life are the 0 to 6 years. Anything else you are doing thereafter, you are only doing it on a weak foundation. 0 to 6 does not mean birth. It means conception. From conception to 6 years. That is where real effective parenting should be felt. And if you do what we are supposed to do, and our children overcome that stage, you know, this stage again at around 6 years is when girls and boys will experience those complex. You know, Electra complex, and the other one is, we have Electra, and the other one is, the one for girls, whereby you find the girls are more attracted to their father, and the father is not available.
Oedipus.
Yeah?
Oh, is it Oedipus complex? Yeah? Oedipus complex.
Yeah, there is Oedipus complex for the boys, and for the girls, Electra. The boy is more attracted to the mother. Lucky enough, mothers are always available. That is the beginning of the problem. Actually, studies shows one of the contributing factor of gay or homosexuality is lack of a father figure in the development of a child. I dare to say that the most important person in anybody's life is a father. Because a father is a symbol of security. All the 7 security I was talking about, he is supposed to provide the greatest physical security. When a thief comes to the house, if your father is the first one to enter under the table, that one is more devastating than the thief who has not even arrived. A father is always supposed to be between the family and the enemy. Before you go under the table, you must know where the family is. And I have no problem with the physical security. Men do it very well, even in our homes. Even when the thieves come to your home, they have done a bit of psychology. The first person they wanted to deal with first is the father. The moment he screams, everybody is dead. They don't need to look for the mother or the child. For what? In fact, they will be passing you on the corridor. Try to get the core. The core is the father. Now, the other security is emotional. Fathers, we can give them 100% almost for physical. But we have an issue with emotional and spiritual security. This is where now they fail. Because when we are talking about effective parenting, tuna papanua, we can separate the role of a mother and the role of a father. When you are out there, when you come to the house, then maybe when you had small children, for those who have, or those who are having small children, when your child is playing outside and he or she is hurt by a small child, when he enters in the house, if the mother is there and the father, ideally the child is supposed to run towards the father. But if the child is always coming to the mother, then the father should be careful. He should be asking himself his role. He is supposed to be the one who should give that emotional security, the shoulder to lean on for the child. Remember, the mothers are always burdened with their children for 9 months before you saw that child. And it is the father who should work a lot so that this child finally can be able to stand on their 2 feet, because the symbol of a father is simply security. Here I'm not talking about anything. I'm confining myself to psychology. How people are known. If you have an absent father in your early childhood, or a hostile father, or a useless father, I'm sorry to use that word because that's how they are defined, that is going to haunt you for the rest of your life. And across the world, when you ask a majority of people who is the most important person in your life, many people will always choose their mother. Their fathers, actually, they are very few. In fact, they can be counted. Yet we are saying, for you to be able to stand psychologically with your 2 feet, the role of the father is very important. I don't know how I can even emphasize that, because it's very critical. Spiritual security, who is supposed to take the lead? The father. How many fathers are taking that position? Most of the churches in Kenya, you find they are full of ladies. The father is nowhere to be seen. He has delegated that spiritual role to somebody else. And that squarely affected the family unit. And much of our problem, they are there at that angle. Of course, there is the intellectual abuse, and that one is another dimension. In marriage or in parenting, anything that you can do that is going to separate you or to put a bigger wedge between you and your spouse, please stop it. So we have a lot of intellectual abuse in families. For instance, you have a father and a mother, they married when they were in Form 4, and the father is the provider, we agree. He goes to university and he does the first degree, well done. Then after some time he says, I'm going to do masters, well done. Then he also goes and does a PhD. Where is the mother? The mother is still a Form 4. That is an intellectual abuse. Because first of all, you will not even be engaging. So you are supposed to, once you go and do the first degree, once you come back, you are supposed to push your wife to first of all do the degree. Then akimaliza wewe uende, so that you are able actually to be reading from the same script. Otherwise, of course, it is even worse. It could even be fatal if it is a lady who is going up to PhD and the husband is still at Form 4. I can assure one thing. You will get the certificate of PhD, but you are more likely to get another one of divorce. Because men have an ego that actually needs to be massaged. And the ignorance has no defense. You must understand what you are dealing with. Ladies must be encouraged, because when we talk about parenting, you avoid to do anything that could actually bring more conflict. If it must be done, you must discuss about it. You must accept. You must bring the dangers on the table, and then you agree how you will move on. Otherwise, you don't just beat your chest and say, masomo ni mazuri, mimi naenda kusoma just like any other person. Your family is unique, and it cannot be like that one of the neighbor. The issue of hands-on, I don't know how to emphasize, because one of the challenge of the parent of today, he has actually delegated parenting. And he or she thinks on board, it is a fashion. You know, when you go home, the whole day you have not seen your baby, and you are told the baby ate and slept, you just sit on your chair and you are comfortable, you cannot even do anything because you are tired. There is something wrong. So the hands-on is important. People must be told the truth, delegate everything, even the workplace. Like now I'm the head of counseling. I am here. The office is still running. But I cannot afford to delegate the role of parenting because what goes around comes back. And by the way, and that is very clear even in the Bible. God is the originator of a family. And I believe one way that you determine whether you have succeeded in this earth, it is the kind of the family that you have raised. Nobody will go to ask you, how are you performing in Gatuanyaga Primary? Those are irrelevant. When you die, one of the things that you must be asked, it is how are you the second God to your family? And you might not be have enough answers to say. And God, I don't think He will entertain when you say, I did not do A, B, C, D because I was very busy at the church. Or I was very busy at the workplace. So by the time I was going home for those early years, I was not there for my children. There will be a price and consequences for that. Then the issue of be a good role model of your family. Good parenting demands that you are the role model. If you go to town right now and you met a doctor in the street, you do not know there's a doctor. Until when you go to the hospital and you meet him with his stero, inaitwa stero, na coat. But when you are a parent, you cannot keep on changing like a chameleon. You have to be a role model. You must avoid double messages. You cannot tell your child to be honest with the little money you send them to go and buy things and bring whatever. Yet in your discussion, they are hearing how you are discussing, how you record the neighbor. I mean, their usual children are very sensitive to what goes on, to an extent that even a baby who is in the mother's womb can even sense when you are not talking to each other. You have not seen it, but he senses. And there are some children who will develop illness simply to make sure that your family survives. They are called psychosomatic illnesses. Because if that child does not develop that illness, we will not have any family. And the good illness is asthma. You know, you are not talking to each other. The child can sense. It will pray very well during the day, and it will eat. But when you are just about to sleep, it gets the attack. That attack is supposed to make you talk. Because if you are not talking and the child is throwing, what do you have to do? You must stop and take that child to the hospital. When it is sense now you can talk, the child is well. And normally those illnesses, they must attack one child for at least 5 years. Akimaliza 5 years, another one gets another one. For that family to stand. Because it is in the business of the God to make sure a family does not corrupt. He can do anything, including death. If you have seen those people who keep on running and coming back, anaenda anarudi. If God sees that, for instance, you are likely to go for good, and he still wants that family to be there, you can go and the child dies. When it dies, you know you have to come back and bury. Mostly those people, when they come to bury, they don't go back. You must understand the importance of parenting and the family, and it is key. This is very important. This parent who is a good role model, you don't have to talk a lot, you don't have to scream, people just have to copy you. You have to make communication a priority. A good parent does not engage with the 10 ineffective methods of talking or communicating. There are about 10 of them, and one of them is what we call QA communication. In a family setup, if you are a bad parent, you are only asking questions, simple questions, and the answer that you expect is only yes or no. Ng'ombe zimekamuliwa. What else do you want? It is either yes or no. Mumekula chakula. Mumesoma, mumefanya homework. Umbwa imekula. That's a familiar question for men. Because a dog is very important to a man. It helps him to maintain the physical security I was talking about. Inamsaidia. So he is likely actually to remember the dog better than hata kuuliza kama umekula but the dog. Because they have some work that they are doing for this family. So we need to go deeper than just what we are seeing. The issue of communication is critical. Marriages that have been known not to work, the major contributing factor is lack of effective communication. And they are 10. Na ikizidi sana, the worst is silence. I once counseled a couple who had not talked for 9 months under the same roof. So people have PhD of nil by mouth. And when you are not talking, when you are silent, you allow your partner actually to think about anything. Because silence also communicates. So you can imagine, and this is how most of our families people, we are talking, but it is still very unhealthy. We also need to be flexible and we need to adjust our parenting style. You know, there are times you are a democratic, but you may require a bit of authoritarian, depending on the issue at hand. That's what it means. So you don't just get stuck on one completely. Are you able to be flexible? While you are supposed to give a lot of flexibility to adolescents, you are supposed to give a lot of restriction to a child, or that child who is in the childhood. You are supposed to give almost all the freedom to that person who is 35. So, and you are the same parent. That is the flexibility that I'm talking about. Show that your love is unconditional. There is nothing as dangerous as when one of your child perceives you not to be loving them like the other. It is very devastating. So, this is very important. We need to approach our children with unconditional positive regard, what we call UPR. Possess basic knowledge in human developmental stages, like I had said earlier, infancy, childhood, adolescence, adulthood. The very parent, again, must also understand adulthood, because in the adulthood, especially from 45, or let's say sometimes even 40, but mostly 45 to 60, the adult also goes through what we call second adolescence. The first adolescence was 12 to 20, the third. Now, from 45, there is another second adolescence, which is, again, that affecting the adult. Of course, you do not get it from the books as the way I'm putting it. When I say adolescent, what I mean is that there are so many changes that happen from 45 to 60, and if you are not careful, it can bring a lot of shake-ups. It is another transition phase. This is where you find ladies going through what we call menopause. Men have what we call midlife crisis, and before you know it, if you are not well grounded, you can even abandon that family and start another one. It is so easy. It is like closing the eyes. So again, at this person who is in this stage, a person who is 45 years to 60, is, as much as they have those challenges, they also have their children now in adolescence. And that complicates everything. So are you going to manage your own issues? You are also having challenges at the workplace, because this is the stage that if you are to change your career, you are supposed again to change, so that you become generative as opposed to stagnating. So there are many things that happen. We also say life starts at 40. If you have not achieved what you came on this earth to do, from 40 years above, you actually feel it. You feel that it's like you are not going to make it. So it becomes very challenging, and it is key that we understand all the human, or I mean all the tasks that each stage are expected to be realized, because these stages are not the same. And if you don't realize that task, and especially the parent, because you are being pulled by your children who are in adolescence, and you have your own. If you don't negotiate this midlife crisis, and your health is also going to start deteriorating, your graph that was going up, it starts now flattening, just like the way we are talking of flattening the COVID-19 curve. From that time, your graph is no longer going up, it is flattening. So you also start experiencing some challenges health-wise, old age challenges. Actually, there are times you can wake up and you feel that body is not the one you knew, but there is nothing you can do. So these are challenges that are there, and we must face them as effective parents. For example, all this. Within this, because we are understanding all this, a good parent must understand that an adolescent has 4 needs, and it is your responsibility to ensure they have them. One of them is the need for security. There is a lot of insecurity in this phase. Yeah? The adolescent need emotional, social, and economic support, which give them a lot of insecurity. They also need love. Yeah, they are in the serious need of your love, you as the parent. Affection or love is one of the most basic psychological needs. It must be provided. Of course, when you say love, you can add respect. And respect is earned. You cannot force your children to love you if you have not earned for it. It's not automatic. It is a two-way. You have failed to pay school fees, you have the money, you have failed to be there for them, and then you are forcing them to respect you. It might not work. It will just be fake. Need for approval. This, I'm just singling adolescents because it's key. They have a need to be approved. There is a craving for recognition with this group of people. Just recognize them, affirm them, reinforce what they are doing. You can reward them, not necessarily with the money, but with the words. Just that is good enough for them. Need for freedom and independence. Those 4. So a good parent, an effective parent, will be seen to attempt to actually be doing something about those 4. I wanted to help. How do we therefore maybe say that effective parenting can understand some of the other challenges that could be there, like the ones I'm mentioning. The only thing is that we need to be trained. There is a lot that we need to do, because before you reach 60 years, any person who is 60 years and above, that is the last phase of life. We call it later life. An effective parent must have started to experience what we call empty nest syndrome. At that period, more often than not, you realize your children have left your home. So you have this empty nest syndrome that you need again to overcome. From 60 years onward, your comfort, or what we call your peace, depends wholly on how you have spent the 60 years. And if you listen to most people from 60 years onward, their language is full of desperation. They are lamenting. Basically what they are saying, I wish I could be given more chance. I would not spend my life the way I have spent. And one area of focus is parenting. You only need one child in your family, for instance, who is chemically addicted, to actually make you lose almost everything. Managing one child out of the many that you might be having, who is chemically addicted, it is extremely challenging for this parent. So and that's why we must do anything possible, whether it is from the church front or from the family, to prevent some of these challenges that would actually happen. And it is very easy. If we work on ourselves, we get the basic, and we encourage all parents to be open to learning, so that we can actually, even when I meet your child out there, I have the skills to reach out, not just to pass and say, this is not my child. Because that child has a way of affecting mine, has a way of affecting our community. Because there is no thief who will come from far. There is always somebody from around. So we need to have that collective responsibility and understand effective parenting is an investment that actually, in the long run, would actually say the Ministry of Education, the country at large, should actually relook, so that we are able to incorporate some of these things even as early as possible. Because for sure, there are some parents who don't have this chance even to learn. But their children, they are very important people in our society. What could we do so that maybe we have those parenting seminars, we can have something in our system so that we ensure all these children have the basic to withstand all the challenges that are there in their later life. So I end by saying, there is this saying by Franklin Benjamin. He said, peace and harmony make up the greatest riches in a family. And you know, some people, they may value many things, wealth and all that. But one of the greatest riches that you can have is raising a good family. It might be very simple, but every person is sober, is able to actually do what they can do, and they can even be able to be there even when you are not there. That is the greatest, one of the greatest things that you can do. And you don't need to go far. You need only to weigh and look at your family. Is there harmony? Or can you live even two children together? Can you kill yourself in the quote and see how that family should be when you are not there? Are they even able to understand each other? And if not, then we must go back and start doing those small things that you need to do so that our families can stand. For the children, there is Solomon said in Proverbs 7:20-22, my son, listen to your father's advice. Do not reject your mother's instruction. When you have to act, they will guide you. While you rest, they will protect you. All of us have a role. So we have a good parent, then we will reap the benefits, because our children will feel us and they will be able to reciprocate. And the children will be well guided and we will not be able to even cushion all those challenges, like the issue of suicide, the issue of drugs, and all that. Thank you very much.